Great.
Okay. So I recently acquired a 3D printer. I'll go over why I'm interested in it, how you set it up, the first prints I did, opportunities. Had a business professor say a long time ago, there's no such thing as problems, there are only opportunities. Well, let me tell you, there are opportunities with 3D printing. Okay. Um, got this from my son-in-law. That's the machine over there in the corner. He upgraded to a much, much better machine. He's a dentist. Dentists are printing crowns and things. He's not doing that yet with his printer, but he figures he ought to know something about it. With his help, I skipped a lot of the startup problems. He spent a day trying to get that to work right. So I'm like going to tell you how to drive a car, but I can't tell you how the transmission works or how the engine works or any of that stuff. You're learning how to push which button to push in which order. And if you go out and buy yourself a 3D printer today, it's going to take you a little bit more time. I was able to begin printing immediately. I mean, I brought the thing home, made sure it was level, and I printed. Okay. Layout details get expensive, and if you need a lot of little things, it can really get expensive. 3D printing can help, but if you saw Rich's clinics at the convention, and he's done them before, there are times when resin casting is going to be a whole lot faster and cost effective. You may have noticed this thing running. I was a little surprised. I wanted to do a test run, and then I was going to print something during the talk. This truck took 42 minutes to print, so I'm not going to talk that long. But it takes a while. So, the one I think of is stumps. It would probably take 20 minutes to print a stump, and Rich can cast 100 stumps in 20 minutes. So it depends on what you're trying to do. Anyway, there are a lot of free files out there. Some aren't highly detailed, but a lot of those can go in the background. Or if you're going to put people in your buildings, the people standing in the back of the store, people will see, visitors will see that there are people in the back of the store, but they're not going to be able to tell that they're highly detailed. There are some inexpensive files, and there are some very expensive files available. And these are 4 sources that I've found. Thingiverse, Makerspace, Cult3D, and Yegi. Most of mine have come out of Thingiverse because what I'm looking for seems to be there more than the others. There. Okay. I started out, I'm interested in figures and vehicles because layouts need a lot of automobiles. Good North American automobiles are hard to find. There are a lot of SUV files out there. There's a few pickup trucks. I haven't yet found a crew cab. But looking at pickup trucks nowadays, it's very rare that a pickup truck you see go by you on the road today isn't a crew cab. Now, if you're modeling the 1950s, that's not a problem if you can get a 1950s file. There's a lot of muscle cars and luxury cars that you can download. How many of those do you see going by? We did a 60-hour road trip over the holidays. I saw no Lamborghinis or Jaguars. I saw maybe half a dozen Dodge Chargers and a handful of Mustangs. And there are probably some Camaros. But if you just go by the types of files you can download, you would think we're all driving Ferraris and Lamborghinis and Maseratis and stuff. Some files come in HO scale. Some files are N. Some files are big, 116. You know it's a 116. It's hard to tell by looking at the pictures and the information they provide. But if you open up the zip file and there's like 50 files in there, okay, you're printing part of the dashboard, and I mean that's a 116. Now you can scale those down, but it gets pretty busy. Okay, the setup. You can get a 3D printer for the price of a locomotive. Not a great 3D printer, but a printer. This one over here, new, costs $300 to $350. Yeah, if you get sound with your locomotive, that's what you're paying. HO. I'm sorry, I don't know what the N scale guys have to put up with. A spool of PSA, which is that purple and blue. This is a dual color fiber, which means, like, if you look at that pickup truck from one side, it looks kind of pinkish, and if you look at it from the other, it looks kind of bluish. Okay, HO scale vehicles are at least $12 to $15, and John, you thought they're like pushing 30 now. Okay, so that makes 3D printing even more cost effective. So if you need more than 20 to 30 vehicles on your layout, this is a pretty good deal. So there, that's the machine. It lived in my basement for a while. That's where it lives now too. This was before it moved to the basement. This is in the process, just about finishing up a load of coal. The files get loaded in through a flash drive. Oh, and this is your control panel. This comes off. It's attached by a cord, so you can push in what you're doing. You can make some adjustments to the print. You can't make adjustments to the file. So you go out to Thingiverse, you say, show me automobiles, you find it, you download it. And this is about all the information you get. I had no idea what size that was going to be. That's a Honda Civic. It doesn't give me the year, but it's recent. And you download a zip file and you get STL files. That's what you're loading into the system. You open the STL file. My son-in-law uses Cura, so I use Cura. You make adjustments to the size. You can do a few things, and then you push this button down here that slices it. So Cura is a slicer. Did I go? No, okay. And it will slice it, and then it will give you a little thing down here. It's looks a little blurry up this close, but I think this says 23 minutes. And that's the estimated print time. And I'll probably say this again, when I put that file into that machine, it will tell me a slightly different time, usually a little bit longer. But 23 minutes to print the Honda Civic. And again, if you're doing 500 Honda Civics, you might want to look at resin casting. And you move the thumb drive to the printer, and so this menu comes up that says print. I'm going to hit the print button. Whoops. Okay, I'm all right. This window will pop up. Now, I learned this winter. Started out in the office. It smells, it's melting plastic. It smells. I moved it out to the garage, and it printed fine. But then one very cold day, I went out to the garage, and this window didn't come up. The little photo you see there, it didn't come up. It wouldn't print. So I learned it can be too cold for that thing to print. So that's when I moved down to the basement. It's, still putting fumes into the house, but at least I'm not sitting there breathing them. And then it goes off and prints, and it tells you in here all kinds of things: the temperature of the print head and the temperature of this, and how many minutes is left on the print. Okay, first prints, I printed a figure. I put this in my office, turned it on, and started printing. You'd leave the room because it smells. And I was pretty happy with it, but I've since noticed this looks like he's holding some kind of tool, like the old lug wrenches for your car that sat in your trunk. And I think that's a mistake. Okay, my second print, because I had found it, whoops, was a TARDIS, HL scale. Third print, there. The third print was that Honda Civic file you saw that I had for downloading. This is too small. It's way below HL scale. It's way below, this is probably below TT scale. So These are the sizes in millimeters that it's going to print out. It gives you height, length, and width. So I knew that was not going to work well. I put it way back in the backdrop. Okay, so I put together a little set of calculations. I went out online and found these are the sizes in inches of a real life. This was a 2015 Civic, and I'm not sure if that's what I've got in for the print or not. I do the funny math, and it tells me to make a 71-inch wide prototype, I need to make a 20 millimeter wide, 21 millimeter wide model. That gives me HO scale. So there we go. I entered 20.7 millimeters wide in the width one, and you see that's a little bigger than what was there a couple minutes ago. And I started the print. I left the room and I came back about, 10 minutes later to see what it was doing. And that's what it had done. Okay. I'm gonna use the big one so you can see it in the back of the room. It's sitting on 4 tires, and at some point, very early in the process, these 4 little points were not strong enough to hold this down as the printer was going around and yanking. So I started again, and I haven't figured out yet what to do with this sort of stuff. And I have thrown this out, but I'm a modeler. I can you take scraps of wood and you build stuff, and you take scraps of this and you do stuff. And what do you do with that? Okay, I had not given that print support, and there's a whole menu that pops up in Cura, support. Tell it what kind of doing support. Anyway, after a few layers, it got pulled off. So I went in, and this is a much later thing. This is a signal box. I had the same issue happen, although I caught it before I wasted too much. But the signal box was resting on 4 little feet. And after it got up to this point, it just got yanked aside. When I walked in, this was being kind of pulled around by the printer head as it was leaving other strings of stuff. So, 4th print, setup issue. Instead of entering the number of millimeters I wanted the thing to be, instead of entering the 20.7, I entered the 79.5 or whatever that number is. And when I said slice it, it gave me a number like 6 hours, and I said, so I wonder what happened. But I told it to print support. So there's some magic to this button. There we go. Okay, I went back up about a half hour later, and I see this. And it's a little hard to tell the scale of this, but anyway, it's way bigger than HO. Okay, whoops, went too far. Okay, there. Oh, okay, I guess I didn't go too far. That's the 4th print, and you can see the little support trees that print. This is a 1:24 scale Chrysler PT. And it turned out, measuring the wheelbase, I believe this is 1:28.5 is what that turned out. I have a garden railroad, so it's not a complete waste. Oh, and this is what I wanted to print. This is what I got.
And it took the 6 hours.
Yes. But once, because about that time, that previous picture, once I looked at the wheelbase, I said, okay, this is not going to be a complete disaster.
Are those all solid?
Yes. Well, there's some sort of, honeycomb, that's the word. Yeah, and you can do different interiors, some with more help and some with less. And one of the things, somewhere in working with this stuff, it gives you an estimate of how many meters of that plastic it's going to run through to make this thing. So there's the 4th print kind of cleaned up. The 5th print Honda Civic actually worked. I got the right numbers into the right place. Oh, and sometimes when you're trying to clean these off, you're pulling the trees off and it pulls the wheels, the tires right off with them. That can be fixed. Okay, so there's first prints. The opportunities. Okay, the lock aspect ratio I'll get to. Print quality can be an issue. The more money you spend, the less of an issue it is. A real opportunity is dealing with forced perspective. Vehicle glass is a question, and this you'll hear more about in a later event. But lock aspect ratio, the correct dimensions for the Honda Civic, that's the millimeters to print, 53 by 20 by 16. This print is set up so if I put in 20.7, I don't get 53 millimeters long, I get 47. So the first dozen vehicles I printed are the right width, but they're not the right height and they're not the right length. Now, on my railroad, that's not going to make a difference. The volume of visitors I get, which is like 1, nobody's going to notice. And I have since learned how to unlock that. There's something you click over here on the menu and you can put all the right numbers in. So, I've already surmounted one of the opportunities I had. Print quality. If you look at these things, the line, there's lines because of the filament. Automobile primer may fill it in. My son-in-law recommends spraying it with automobile primer. But if I put it in too hard, there's a window, there's a column right there for where the doors and windows are. If I try sanding that or spraying it too thick, I'm going to lose that detail. Panel seams are going to disappear. In fact, it's very difficult to see panel seams here, but I'm hoping you can see these lines there. It is not smooth. Okay, this is son-in-law's new printer. I don't think you can see the lines there at all. They are there, but they are very, very light. This is a real close-up. You can begin to see those lines from the filament. But in order to achieve that, you need this little thing, which costs about $1,200. And what's nice about it is there are 4 different spools of plastic up there so you can print multicolor things. And it will come out much better. And Joe recently moved into 3D printing. And if you look at his model over here of the station, you barely see the lines. He's got, well.
It's a different technology.
Okay, okay.
It's resin. It's
Yep.
resin printer versus
Okay.
film.
If you want super detail, you gotta go to resin.
Okay, and all right, good advice for all of you. And there's also some settings I can probably fool with, either in the software or on the machine, that will do better.
Does that contain fumes?
I doubt it. I haven't been there when he's been running that one. But he makes far nicer toys to give to kids who come in to his office. Okay, forced perspective. This is a real, what you all think of as an opportunity. I started with HO. I've since printed in normal scale. You can print any scale. So I'm thinking, and I did a little bit of math. You start in HO 1 to 87, and you're gonna have cars parked successively smaller until you get to N. You can tell it. Well, you got to do some figuring, you got to do some math, but you can have them gradually diminishing into the distance. Structures you can do at a smaller scale, and I learned long ago, if you go to any of the Disney lands or worlds, and you walk down Main Street, the second stories are 3/4 real. And it helps give you the perspective that the thing is bigger. Signal boxes, a lot of signal boxes are right at the crossing, but sometimes they're a little ways back. You can print them a little smaller. You can do telegraph poles receding into the distance. And for those of you who can't see it, everyone knows N stands for normal scale, not What is it? Highly oversized? Was that the, yeah.
Horribly oversized.
Horribly oversized? Okay. There's an example of forced perspective. Um, and, you know, the forced perspective is going backwards, but if I had to put those behind the big ones, you wouldn't have been able to see them. But you can get the picture. Okay, vehicle glass. These vehicles are solid. Well, there's honeycomb inside, but they're essentially solid. So I can't show the interiors. I can't do glass. I don't know if I can print just the shell. Is it going to fall apart if I try to do just the shell? So there's an opportunity. I can try that. If I can print a shell, can I print clear plastic on that one? I don't know. But okay. So I've been looking at this as I'm driving around. Most of the time you can't see like through a car. You do, so nowadays windows in the back are tinted. In the 50s they weren't. So you can have dark windows in the back. You've got reflections. What do I do with colors? These are HO scale models from somewhere. That's another one. This is like from Bush. And you really can't see through those cars. There's a van where the windows, you know, these are clear plastic windows, but they don't look like it's sitting on the, you know, as you're looking at them. So if I put these cars in the back and paint the windows dark, maybe I'm okay. And looking around the NMRA, different newsletters, I ran across this division. You know how we call ourselves Seacoast Division, the Hub Division, and the Hub Division, you get into other regions, they go by the number because they have these long multi-state names. But anyway, this guy used canopy glue on this car. It's a resin casting, but it looks, you know, like it's glass. How am I doing on time?
You're good.
Okay. I'm going to print a lot of vehicles because this is my entire collection of HO scale vehicles now. And this, you might be able to see a little bit of blue in there. That's actually one of these printed, and it's a Honda Accord painted blue. I got one just about that color. So basic question is, what kind of vehicles do I want to print? And what type should I print? You know, SUVs, pickup trucks, sedans, station wagons, that sort of thing, minivans. What colors should I paint them? Well, I did a survey on this road trip I mentioned, and I got some results. And I was surprised at some of the results. Like, there's a lot fewer pickup trucks than I thought, and a lot more SUVs. I thought pickup trucks and SUVs were gonna be about balanced and take up most of the road. Well, they take up most of the road, but most of that is SUVs. And I can show you the results of that at a future time, and we ought to be real close. Oh, later prints. Okay, just some things. Oh yeah, windows. So my wife made a HO scale model of her grandmother's farmhouse. And I found that we used Grant Line windows for some of them, but she needed a special size. I said, aha, I got the way to do it. So I printed it. It shows up on Cura like this, and I went ahead and printed it, and it comes with these huge plastic trees attached. And in trying to get them out of the tree, the windows were actually that's a bit of the window, and that's a bit of the window. This is the raft at the bottom, and those are the two trees. So I learned another thing about this, how to use this printer. You can rotate the print. And if you print it flat like that, it uses a whole lot less plastic, and those rafts come off very, very easily. And, you know, it's a little rough because of the quality of the printer, but you can sand that down. But that's an HO scale window, and it's really small.
What is the layer thickness you use?
I'm going with fine, which is like next to the finest. I think it's a 1 millimeter. Could be. You know, you're asking me about the transmission here.
That's the key part of it.
Well, yes. Yeah. So it's something I need to check out. And as you make that finer and finer and finer, it takes longer and longer and longer. So here's coal loads. I printed all the coal loads I need. I'm going to use the same thing to do wood chips, and I'll coat them with something else. But this is, you know, resin casting. Once you're set up, you pop these out, and this is a 60 to 90-minute print right there. There's all kinds of things out there that you can print. I found some street lights. I printed out one that looks like I told it I wanted it what I thought was HO scale. I got something between O and G. It takes some experimenting. Okay, it can be a valuable tool. I put a lot of vehicles on the road for little cost. They won't be highly detailed. They can kind of populate in the back. They won't be up on the front of the layout. And you know, I've had this for about 6 months now. You'd think I might be better at this, but there's someone at my house who thinks like when the driveway's a foot deep in snow, I need to go out there and clear it out. During the holiday season, the same person thinks I need to spend time with a family and all that kind of stuff. So you know, it's a gradual process.
If you want to give 3D printing a try, an easy way to do it is if you have a makerspace in your area. There's one in Manchester. They have they often have 3D printers now, and you can also get a little bit of help. There's people that know how to use them.
Okay, yeah. I know some people have sons or sons-in-law that.
Yeah, that kind of thing. Yeah, but makerspaces are a good
If you're
source.
looking for sources, for people that are into CAD, or able to do CAD, you can get hobbyist SolidWorks for $34 a year.
Okay.
And you can, if you just get dimensions and you can make anything you want with that.
Okay, yeah, because my next step, I've got Blender, which is a CAD program, and my next step is to go off in that direction. I haven't. I've literally opened it up, and
A lot of work.
I
I would recommend Tinkercad to start.
Tinker. Okay.
Yeah.
Like I use Fusion, but like any of these CADs things, the simpler ones to start, Blender's a very complex beast.
Well, my son uses that for
Well,
something
then
else.
you've got
so
an
I can-
expert,
I
so you're
can
good.
Probably get help. Yeah. Oh, and
I don't have a son who does it, so.
one other thing I needed to mention wasn't built into there. These are 2 tools that are helpful with 3D printing, at least that machine. You put a little bit of this down on the plate to help hold the thing you're printing, help hold it in place. I've used it, put it on there like twice since in 6 months, so you don't need a lot. And the other thing is, when you're done printing, a putty knife is very helpful to get the thing off the plate. Now, maybe if I hadn't used the glue, it wouldn't stick to the plate, but maybe if I hadn't used the glue, I'd get like that 3rd print with all the stringy stuff. Yeah, and I know the leveling is important. I leveled it in the center this morning, but and I'm not printing all over the whole thing, but it ran. Now, my wife used to be a librarian at a school, and they said, like, every time they moved their 3D printers, they re-leveled them. But I haven't had trouble with that. But